begin?
Yeah, is it straight?
I'm not sure what that means.
Can you just check? Because I'm
check
paranoid.
if it's straight.
I'm paranoid. I'm not gonna ask you to check because you don't know what that is.
I don't know what it is. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thanks.
Great job.
All right, crackhead energy. Let's do it. Woo!
All right.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lo Kya Kahenge, your bi-weekly podcast in which we talk about various different topics surrounding culture. And today, we're going to be talking about toxic masculinity.
Absolutely. And I'm so excited to say that we got such an overwhelmingly positive response
Last
for
week.
episode 1. And so just want to say thanks.
Yay.
Finally, no one can tell us that they can't sit with us.
Yeah.
Or we can't sit with them. Yeah.
We're cool.
We're cool now. We're cool. All right, so, of course, joining me are the wonderful, as you have heard, the Kashar sisters, the ones who are the backbone of this project.
Aww.
And I'm your, the weird guy who talks a lot. I'm Taha.
Ha.
Yeah.
But
That rhymes with my name, so don't ever do that again.
Taha.
Taha, haha. Everyone from my high school who's listening right now is gonna remember that one.
Oh, that's a thing.
Yeah, that was the thing. They were like, oh, haha, Taha. I'm like, oh, you're so clever.
yeah, and by the way,
Anyway.
we've been doing this for 2 hours before we started to
Mhm.
turn on this mic.
Oh,
so
this crackhead energy was happening since we have cake in front of us. By the way, you guys can't see, but we have cake.
Taha, thank you so much, as always, for that generous introduction.
Yes.
You're amazing, and you look
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you.
Just wanted to get that out there before
I
we went into
appreciate-
this really amazing topic that we're going to discuss today.
Thank you so much. I look like a burned marshmallow, but thank you very much for saying that.
In season right now.
It's That's it. I feel better.
I can't.
Oh man. As you guys can tell, we like to keep it light and high energy here at Lo Kya Kahenge. Thank you guys so much for the amazing response. The last few weeks have just been awesome. I mean, we've been talking about it, how positive the reaction was from everyone, and we want to continue that. And thank you for helping us make it, helping us continue to make it this way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And from all over the world.
Yeah.
Not just from our home country, the United States, but also Pakistan, India, China, Thailand, Sweden, Chile.
Yeah.
Jupiter,
UK.
Pluto. It's amazing.
Yeah, we have a big reach, but it's just been so nice, and we can't wait to continue and see where this takes us.
Sounds good. All right, so today's topic is about toxic masculinity, a very intercultural and international topic that I'm sure a lot of you can relate to. So the thing that I wanted to focus on today is defining toxic masculinity and then going with like the urban definition of it. So in psychology, toxic masculinity refers to like the societal expectations surrounding what it means to be male or maleness. So, being quote unquote tough or macho or, suppressing your feelings because you're afraid of what people are going to say about you. Sort of that kind of thing. And I wanted to start off with your experiences with males following this toxic masculinity theme, growing up or anyone you saw. So go ahead.
Honestly, we've been blessed with a very strong male figure in our house, and that's our dad. Growing up, I never ever felt like, I think I mentioned this in the last episode, but I never felt like he had anything but great expectations from us. And I say this in a very positive way. Like I have never ever heard him say, like honestly, I heard some of my friends' fathers say, etc., that you can't do this because
You're a girl.
a girl, or you can't do this because that's my job.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that he did around the house, he taught us how to do around the house, and that includes everything from changing a light bulb to putting together wires in a socket or whatever it is, all the way to sitting on his seat as a CEO in a great advertising agency in Pakistan. So we all grew up with the dream of I want to be like my dad, which is of course people say that daughters are closer to their dads or whatever it is. It is especially true in this case. Our mom is amazing. She's the glue that holds the family together. But honestly, I have to say that our dad set such a high standard for what we expect all guys what we want or hope that all guys are.
Yeah.
I can't say this enough, but we've been blessed in that area. And when we look at other people's examples of like how their lives have been influenced by, let's say, their dads or other people like their partners, husbands, other, I'm not speaking for everybody and their roles in society, but like it's often disappointing. It's surprising sometimes how much imbalance there is when it comes to roles in households between quote unquote guys and girls.
I think it comes from a place of dominance. Even when it comes to chores or anything like that. I mean, on our community board, we had a question about this.
Yeah.
Right.
About the division between chores and why is it so different for males and females? Like, why is it always, especially in our culture, well, now we're seeing it change, but like commonly it's, the guy works and the girl does the chores, and when the guy gets home, like it's not really, how it's supposed to be. And same thing with, significant others. Like if one is doing the submissive role, the other is doing the dominant role, and it's really, it causes a lot of stress in terms of self-expression.
Yeah.
Now, Mnaha, what do you think about sort of males having this expectation, this societal expectation about being dominant means that you're tougher, you're better in a sense?
Yeah, I think that first of all, if a guy doesn't even want to feel that way, I think that the society pressure that he feels makes him be that way. You see examples every single day around you that are like, oh, I have to be this like certain way, or people are gonna call me feminine or less manly, whatever that even means. And I think that I can't relate to it because I'm not a guy, but I can, it must be hard. It must be hard because like there's all these expectations and you're like trying to live up to them, and it's like how, because in your mind maybe you want to do something and it's not considered quote unquote manly, but you don't want to get judged or whatever, so it's like how do you deal with that?
The way I've seen people deal, or rather guys deal with that sort of boundary on themselves, is like through sports or through like competition. It's a release for them. Like I know a lot of people that either they play sports or they play video games, and for them that is their way of releasing that tension, because they know that if they were to cry in front of family members or friends, that they were going to be seen as lesser of a man. So they need these like outlets. I mean, these outlets are great for things like anger,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
However, when it comes to like expression, it becomes a burden, because why do you want to go punch that punching bag when you can actually just talk about the issue?
Yeah. But
yeah.
that talking is seemed so like looked down upon. It's like when you hear a guy saying, "Oh, I have a therapist appointment," or like my therapist says, it's like people kind of look at him weird. It's like, why do you have a therapist? Because he's not really supposed to have a therapist because he's a dude, right? And I'm not just saying this because I've actually seen it happen. But in reality, like guys are human beings too. Like when do they cry? That's a question. When do guys cry?
When no one's looking, because they're worried. They're worried about what other people are going to say. What other people are going to say about them. What are they going to think?
Yeah.
If I cry in front of this person, then what are they going to think about me? They're going to think I'm weaker.
Yeah.
There's this weird association with guys and strength.
Right.
Women can be strong too. In fact, stronger, because they actually let out their emotions.
Right.
Yeah. I think letting out your emotions is actually seen more stronger than just like keeping it in. And then I don't know, men like sometimes they just shut up and stay quiet, and then they just won't say anything if they're like angry or sad or whatever their emotions are, but then they'd rather just like sit in one corner and then just not say anything. I have examples in my mind that I'm talking about, but yeah, they'll just like sit there in one corner, not associate with anybody, and then just like have this face and then just keeping it inside them, because if they let it out, it's like they're gonna be seen as not as strong.
But do you think that because they're not releasing that energy, it kind of fills up their glass, and then it becomes like, it comes out in unhealthy ways?
Of course it does.
Anger
outbursts,
heart attacks and heart conditions.
Absolutely, because it's a stressor. Stress causes.
And what we don't understand is that we have to start making these things normal. It has to be part of their upbringing. Unfortunately, part of toxic masculinity is that dads teach their sons, you're stronger than this. Grow up. Take it like a man.
Exactly.
You're being hurt. What are those tears? What does that mean? What? Stop being like a girl.
Yeah.
Stop hitting like a girl.
Yeah, stop hitting like a girl, stop running like a girl, like stuff like that, you know, or they'll be like, ever since they, you know, are, I don't know, 8 years old, and they'll be like, okay, like, let's go out and play catch, you know. It's like, does the dude even want to play catch? Like,
What if they want to sit at home and read a book?
exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. What if they don't like sports? Sports itself is such a big topic in toxic masculinity, you know, like, I'm just thinking about, like, sports bars and stuff, and what goes inside of sports bars, like, anywhere from fighting to like just sports itself, or like team competition, or whatever the sports is, you know, the sports teams. It's like the bar culture in like sports bar is like the definition of toxic masculinity.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
I mean, it's also the worst part about toxic masculinity. It looks down upon the other gender, or the, you know, like other genders.
Yeah.
It says that, you know, stop running like a girl. Like, what does that mean? So like, does that inherently mean that all girls run like whatever
like
however
girls.
you're, yeah, like what does that mean? You know what I mean? And also, like, when it comes to sports bars, it's like the belittling of women. Like,
Yeah.
if you look at places like Hooters, like they have like this thing where it's like, you know, the itemization or the
Yeah.
materialization
Yeah.
of women.
Right.
Like, this is a thing and not a person.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's made for us. What kind of logic is this?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
This is really strange, and honestly, these are just standards that have just been made up from like cultural norms that don't even exist anymore,
Absolutely.
and should not exist anymore. Because on the other side of things, to be honest, it just seems like people, or you know, men, are just trying to prove things.
Yeah.
To who? To each other? To the world? I don't know. I've seen guys literally take up fights over like, oh, my team is like doing this or that. I mean, it's like, come on, it's not about, it is just about, I don't know, it becomes petty competition. And honestly, as an outsider looking into all of this petty competition, it looks stupid. I've seen guys bash other guys' heads in over something as dumb as a game that was on TV and a bet that they took. I feel like that is strange. That is the height of toxic masculinity, where it all just becomes about who is a quote-unquote better man, or who is more of a man. What does that mean? And honestly, I wanted to ask this question to you, like, growing up, you know, and with other, you know, with two brothers, you know, maybe you can tell us about what it was like for you, your experience, and if you saw examples of this ever pop up or not, the opposite.
Absolutely. I mean, growing up, we were always told that, you know, like, men don't talk a lot. They keep a very concise language. Like, we're not supposed to be explaining everything at all times. We're not supposed to be engaging in conversations. Like, growing up, I used to like to sit with the women more. Like, I always like to sit with the aunties more. I like to sit with my girl cousins more, because I feel like they have so much more to bring to the table, and it's not so bland, and, like, you know, it's not simple conversations. I like to have long and detailed conversations.
Yeah.
But growing up, like, with that manhood in mind, it's seen as something that's not appropriate. And, you know, also the other part of that is, growing up, you know, I used to, and I still do, talk a lot with my hands.
Right.
Like right now. So that's also seen as not manly for whatever reason. Like, I don't know if that's like a, you know, like a Pakistani thing, or like a Desi thing, or a cultural thing, or I have no idea where it comes from, but apparently, like, guys using their hands while talking is seen as like this very negative thing
I've
as
noticed
well.
that, yeah.
Right. And the other thing was, is like, older siblings. When you have three guys in birth order, like, you know, like one oldest, one middle, and one youngest being me, there's also that thing that you are the youngest brother. Your opinion is taken with a grain of salt. So not only do I have to prove myself as a man, now I have to prove myself as a valid family member.
Wow.
It's like, okay, now I have to be like, I'm the youngest, but I also know something. But I have to keep explaining myself for someone to be like, you know what? You're actually, you have a point.
I see.
That's
Yeah.
why I used to hang out with more of my friends, my cousin Sana. I love her to death. she's my best cousin, right? And we talk all the time about this kind of stuff. And growing up, like, her and I were like really really close because she understood me. Like, she told me that no, everything I'm saying, everything that I'm about is valid and it's
Right.
okay. And she's also, at the time, she was the youngest in her family, so she also understood that dynamic. What other experiences do you guys have in terms of, like, other people you grew up with besides your father, like cousins or any friends, that you've seen like a pattern of, you can tell that they're upset, but they're not letting down that wall of being a man, right? So they're hiding behind, like, being angry, not talking to anybody. So do you guys have any experiences with people like that?
Definitely. One thing about our family, we're actually predominantly girls. It's actually very funny.
Yeah.
But recently, one of our guy cousins, he's probably like 3 or 4 years younger than I am. He was over from another state, and he was talking about, like, he's one of those guys that was very rambunctious as a kid. He was like so outgoing and so naughty and so like jumpy, and he was like very fun. And as I saw him grow up, he became like this guy who was completely reserved and would sit in one place and would not
Quiet.
really, yeah, very quiet. It's funny because you know exactly what I'm talking about. And he, he loves to dance. And I'm not talking just like he likes to dance in his room or his basement. He loves to dance and actually compete on an international level in dance competitions.
Like good at dancing then.
Very good at dancing. Bollywood song dancing, choreographic, like literally choreographed dance.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a word.
That's fine.
But yeah. But an interesting conversation actually unwrapped itself right in my living room when they were just visiting, and it all became a thing about. His mom started to say, yeah, but, yeah, we're so proud of him that he, went and did all of that these past couple of years and he competed. But I think it's time for him to stop. It's not serious.
Oh no.
Yeah.
And mind you, this guy, he's also a medical student. He is going to become a doctor, just like it's that. But, the other side of this was, now I haven't heard this kid say a word throughout this whole conversation. But when his mom starts to speak for himself, it's the only time that I heard him kind of like, say something. And he goes like, yeah, but it doesn't mean that, if you think that it's work for me or extra work for me or not serious, it's actually a very big deal for me. Like, this is my form of self-expression, and the only reason why you think that I shouldn't do this is because I'm a dude that's just supposed to, that's just supposed to become a doctor.
And he's growing up, and you could hear the annoyance in his voice.
And it just felt ridiculous to us because he's literally sitting in my living room, and I haven't heard him say anything the whole day. And the one time that he actually speaks is when, like, he has to defend his form of self-expression. And his dance. And so, that's just one example of like the kind of block or the kind of like barriers we create, especially in our culture, that like guys shouldn't be dancing or guys shouldn't be doing art or guys shouldn't be like, talking too much or explaining things or having like, long ways of talking animatedly with their hands. Like, these are all standards that basically nobody has created but ourselves. Nobody has given us a rule book saying guys should do this and girls should do this, especially in an increasingly complicated world where we have multiple kinds of roles, and not just gender roles but then also like people roles. An example that I would like to give is my dad. My dad, he is amazing. He set amazing roles for ourselves, and not only for us, by asking us to set big goals, but also by showing that having an equal part in doing chores around the house, in like cleaning.
He's so amazing at that. He like doesn't even let us do anything. Like, literally, we'll just be sitting and he'll just be eating. And he would like want, I don't know, water or like salt or something, and I would like be getting up to get it, and he'd be like, no, sit, like I got it, and I'm like, I'm gonna get fat just sitting here. So, like, let me do something. But it's crazy. Or like he's very good at just doing it, and like even when he needs help, he doesn't say it, and then we'll be like, let me help you, dad, and he's like, no, it's okay, I got it. And not because he wants to be like manly or whatever, it's more like because he understands the distribution of chores around the house, and he understands that like us being like busy with homework or whatever, or us just chilling because resting and stuff, it's so important to him, that he really understands that we all need to have distributed chores and responsibilities.
Yeah. The other side of it, though, is we've had conversations with him where he's been like completely shut off,
Right.
and we haven't been able to access what's going on in his head. I think that is something that I feel like a lot of dads, if they're listening out there, should trust their kids with doing.
Yeah, that's a big issue. Like, we'll just come home and he'll, like, if he's really stressed out or whatever, like, he'll just be sitting there not saying a word. And it's so frustrating because it's like, what is going on in your head? Maybe if you just talked about it, we could talk together. But I think he's just like, we ask him and then he's like, oh, no, like, I don't want you guys to get stressed.
Right.
Or something like that. Like, that's always his excuse. I don't know what that is.
And it might not just be our dad, right? It might be also like other guys, other big brothers. I don't have a big brother, but I imagine that like I have friends in Pakistan who have brothers who, when they grow up, they immediately become this sort of like kind of like a barrier for their sisters.
Yeah, automatically. It's like, why?
Yeah.
She doesn't need that.
She doesn't need that. She doesn't need a filter. I understand that you're being protective, but there is a very fine line, and you can probably speak about this. There's a very fine line between being protective and being annoying.
Yeah, and they're just annoying.
And
like back in Pakistan, they're just annoying.
Or I think that also comes from a place of insecurity. If I'm not gonna be the older brother and there for my sister, that makes me less of a man.
Right.
I think that's also a place where it comes from.
And it's funny because we've seen it in younger brothers too, doing it for their sisters. Yeah. It's like, if they reach a certain age and they're younger and they reach a certain age, they automatically become this like, second head of the household. I 100% agree. So it's crazy, even if they're like young, in age.
Absolutely. And just going back to your father for like a quick second, I really like that he's mindful of the gender roles aspect, because the reason why he's like holding back is because he wants you guys to know that he doesn't want that old culture.
Right.
Because like he doesn't want to be associated with bad culture. There's good parts of culture that we have, and this is for like all of our podcasts, like every episode, this is a huge disclaimer. We enjoy the good parts of our culture.
Yeah.
We enjoy the music, the colors, the fashion, all that. But the things that we don't enjoy are boundaries that are placed on us, such as toxic masculinity.
That's right.
Now, toxic masculinity goes beyond the reach of just our culture. Obviously, it's a very like intercultural issue. But what I've observed throughout my life is that like this birth order between siblings and the division of husband and wife is really like where it's being reminded a lot. We as quote unquote the victims of toxic masculinity are being exposed to it more in those two scenarios. In the scope of family, be it parents or siblings, or in the scope of friends, be it like, okay, I'm the older man in this group of friends, so I have the quote unquote control.
Right.
So that being said, I wanted to talk about what's called a wall. So like we put up a wall that I'm not going to be bothered, I'm going to be protective. And that's where I think the issue comes from. Our glass becomes full, and then hum parte. We literally have this moment where we really sit unhealthy, in a way that's unhealthy.
Yeah, and it can't be. This is not a long-term solution. I feel like we're all equipped with the same brains and the same capacity to like tolerate things. We have to stop thinking that somehow men have a higher stamina of tolerating things and bottling things up.
They don't.
They do not.
They just put on a face?
Yeah.
And it backfires in the worst ways. Worst ways.
And who suffers the most from there? Younger people in the family and women.
And
And honestly, there's an underlying trust issue. If I understand if you don't trust me enough to like, share your problems with me. But if you're not sharing your problems with me because you think you're burdening me somehow and not being like the strong guy that like, I want you to be it whatever role that I know you in, it's not it honestly, it's not a fair assessment on that person's part.
Of course, and also like the biggest issue I see is that reputation.
Right.
You know, like tum chote ho tumhe kya pata. Translation: you're younger. What do you know?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like that becomes troublesome for kids because one, you're pressuring them to become this prestigious profession,
Right.
in which you give advice to other people,
Right.
but at the same time you don't trust them. You never conditioned them to be trusted with advice. You always gave them.
Wow, that's crazy. I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, so it's interesting. We create these environments where we're following like these like rigid societal expectations, especially in our culture about career paths and this and that.
Yeah.
And we don't realize how much of a burden that becomes on the kids.
Yeah.
Because especially when they're boys, because then they're like, all right, if I argue, then they're gonna think that I'm weak,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
and that becomes a huge issue.
Yes.
We can't empower men if they can't get over that weakness of manhood, whatever that means.
Completely agree. And that's from, a sibling's perspective. I wanted to just share my observations about like a spouse related perspective. I'm not married, but I have observed so many, couples where all of a sudden, if they are, married, it becomes an issue of like, you're the guy, you're expected to be the breadwinner of the house. I am the girl or the housewife and whatever. And, I'm going to be the person who takes care of myself. If they're living with their parents, then takes care of your parents. If we have children right away, that's a giant expectation. I'm going to be taking care of our children. People have to understand that, like, a major part of where toxic masculinity thrives is when there's an imbalance of roles in the house in terms of, like, you as a husband should trust your wife or whatever, your partner, to know that she is as capable of handling the pressures
Yeah.
that come with everyday life. If you had a bad day at work, don't come home and, unload in undirected anger.
Yeah.
Come home and just try to understand that she is equally capable of handling and processing the information that you are bringing with you and share as a partner. Roles should be 50% and 50% as partners. It should not be about what does she know? She's a woman. Or what does she know? She just stays inside the house all day.
That's where the toxic comes from.
That's
Yeah.
where the toxic comes from.
And honestly, like, it's not only the roles, it's also the power.
Right?
In both parties, both significant others, if you don't have an equal division of power, and I don't mean like being fake, like I know this is real life and we can't have like half and half like that all the time,
Yeah.
but at least attempting to balance the power can do wonders for you, your kids, and then everyone they're related to.
That's so
Yeah.
true.
Like, if people think that one family can't make a change or one person can't make a change, you'd be surprised at how effective the trickle down effect is.
Right.
You know, so Minahil, as you were talking about like your father, I was reminded of my own, and really my dad was more so about success. Like, he was more oriented towards the fact that like he wants his kids to be successful.
Yeah.
Right.
It was never the pressure about what it means to be a man, but he definitely did say that one day you're gonna have a family so blank. So
Right.
so it was kind of that
Yeah.
mindset. But thank God our dads aren't like the subject at hand when it comes to toxic masculinity, because we did get very lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Judging by our stories, I think we got really lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have to realize that we're not the only people in the world, and there
Yeah.
are people who suffer some really bad father figures or brother or
Yeah, I mean,
cousin.
what you just said, one day you're gonna have a family, so blank. That is, I feel like, a big, big thing in our country, or like honestly, like any South Asian country. I feel like, because like, what is that blank, right? Like, what do you want me to do? Like, what is this guy supposed to like? So okay, so like he's expected to go to school and then, start working or like have a business and then find a girl and then get married and then take care of her and then have children and then it's like it's like very structured, but it's scary, I guess, like to be a guy, because like you feel like, okay, now I have this humongous responsibility that I have to work for, um, and then find all the answers out myself, you know. So that's definitely scary. Yeah.
It's the pressure. I
It's
mean,
the
think about
pressure.
how much pressure they have growing up.
Yeah.
Like, where are you gonna have room to thrive if you're under pressure 24/7? I'm not saying that this is only limited to males. This is for everyone. I mean, the
Right.
pressure that we have growing up, the pressure is a pressure. It creates this like unfound. It creates this other world. You know, how are we supposed to focus? It
So
just-
true.
Yeah.
So true. And honestly, we're, again, like I said in the first episode, we understand that we're talking from a place of privilege.
Yeah.
Having grown up in such households that we're sitting in front of you and this is a creative project. And the reason we've been able to do it is because we were given this room to thrive. So we understand, and this is exactly why we have, a community page up. We would love to hear your stories. If you would like to correct us on something, please do it. Share your own. You don't have to put your name on there. Actually, we prefer that you make it anonymous because maybe other anonymous people will relate to this and then post their own. But especially here in America, this is part of our privilege. Creativity and the topics around mental health and all of this are becoming more and more, prominent and popular. We have to understand, and I have friends that I talk to back, in our home country, Pakistan, etc. That is looked down upon. If somebody asks for help, that means you failed.
Good.
Yeah.
Yep. Great point.
That means you failed.
Yeah.
I mean, you were supposed to figure this out yourself. You did not. You were like 10 steps behind of like whatever it is. It is seen as a sign of weakness to ask for help. And I myself have been a victim of this. I had to teach myself how to ask for help. You won't believe it, but actually my head of department, Liz Danzico, she made it a project. She made it 100-day project for me to ask for help one day at a time. I had to report back to her about asking for help every day. It could be about as much as like, hey, I really need to borrow your book, or it could be like all the way up to, I'm having a really bad day, please listen to me. Honestly, such a bad, and I'm sure it's gonna transition into like bigger, episodes from here, but like especially so for guys.
Yeah.
Saying please, saying thank you, that is such a big deal because somehow it lowers their self-esteem.
Yeah. Yeah, because their character, I feel like, is all looked as, like you said, not saying please, not saying thank you. And I'm not speaking for all guys, obviously. It's just like the standard, what I've seen.
Yeah.
Cursing. If you curse, you're
Right.
like automatically cool, But like at the same time, if a girl curses, she's trashy. From what I've seen. Yeah.
That's a great point.
Right? Stuff like that. Or you're supposed to dress a certain way, especially
Yes.
like in high school, So like you compare two different types of guys, like the jock who has like all the cheerleaders behind him, and then you see like the guy who's like just quiet and keeps to himself, and they're both in the same class, but like who gets paid attention to more? The jock. But then the other guy, he gets called a freak or all sorts of like names and feminine and stuff like that, or like something as small as like if a guy wants to paint his nails, which is so I've seen it a lot, like happening a lot recently, especially me going to art school. Like it's everywhere, like so it's so normal. But then it's like it's looked as like I don't know what the guy has done, like he's painted his nails, like how is this gonna it's crazy.
Yeah.
So these are like small things too that are like so looked down upon for
Yeah.
some reason.
For some reason, we have like this thing in our culture where if you're not self-sufficient as a male or a female, you are like seen as somebody who is like a failure almost.
Right.
If you ask for help, that's a sign that you're going towards failure. And it's
Right.
such a horrible thing because like if you notice in, oh my god, I can go off on tangent about this, so I'm gonna like keep it short, but about like family dawats, family gatherings,
Yes.
where it's like you can see the division of power.
Yeah.
Where
Right.
what are the girls talking about? What are the guys talking about? The guys are talking about religion and politics, and they're getting really heated, and they're talking over each other.
Oh my God,
They're
yes.
banging tables.
Yes.
They're getting mad at each other,
Yes.
saying, "I don't want to see your family again." Why? Because you didn't agree with me. Like you know, like you know, things like this. There's no
Yes.
such thing as a friendly conversation when it comes to the
No.
uncle section.
No, the
Stay
uncles.
tuned. We'll talk
yes.
about the auntie section next episode. But
Yes.
we're talking about the uncle section, like
Yes.
where it's like literally they're just at each other's throats, and it's like what?
About everything.
everything.
Like politics, oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Like
Yeah.
starting from there,
Yeah.
you know, if people don't agree, if the uncles don't agree with each other on that's it. Like the gathering's over.
The rishta, relationship, the rishta is like completely
Yeah.
like it's under watch.
Yeah.
And if you ask for help and trying to amends to it, that doesn't exist. Wait, hold on.
Yeah. That's so funny. That's so funny.
It's yeah. Oh, I cannot wait to tell you what actually goes on in the auntie section. I made the mistake of sitting down in one or two gatherings.
Yes.
They won't ask for help either.
I no. And I have so much to say about that, but also like you're so right. I don't understand where that is coming from, and like I said, we don't really have a rule book that somebody hands us down. Actually, the more that I grow up, honestly, I figure out that adults have 0% of things figured out. Nobody knows
And
what
they're
they're
the
doing.
most.
Yep.
They're the most group of people that need the most help. They're
Yeah.
the biggest group of people that need the most help.
That's absolutely true. I think age division is a thing too, because like it kind of plays into the toxic masculinity too, and that's that people go from the ages of like I don't know. Well, 18 is good because that's when society considers you an adult, which is like I totally disagree with that, by the way.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's an ongoing growth process. We don't stop growing. Adulthood is an illusion. I can go on about that, but I don't want to. Anyways, so like 18 all the way to like 30, right? People are always talking about, oh, individualism. Like if you're not your own person, if you're not XYZ, you're not an adult.
Right.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah. What is
Right.
that?
Oh my god, my existence isn't important to you because I don't follow these standards of what you think an adult means? Like, I'm not ready to get married, but I have to get married because I'm a quote-unquote adult.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to have a salary job right now because I'm not experienced, but I have to because you're calling me an adult and I'm a certain
Yeah.
age. This division of age is it's a nuisance. It's annoying.
Right.
Because it's like, look, I'm young. I'm walking into a gathering of people that are uncles and they're all successful and they all have jobs, or maybe that 30, 35-year-old that's successful.
Yeah.
And you have to sit there and kind of prove yourself that
Yeah.
you're worthy. Because you're younger, so you have to like prove yourself. Oh no, I'm going to school for this. Nobody cares. Shut up. Sit back down.
Literally, you. First of all, nobody notices you.
Nobody
Nobody
Literally.
notices you. Because meanwhile, they're talking about freaking
Yep.
politics back and back. So that like literally is a topic that can go on forever.
Yeah.
And then even if somebody asks you, oh, like what are you doing? Like where are you going to school? And you'll start, and then that's it. Their attention span is like a size of a peanut. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't exist at
Exactly, and I face that all the time.
all. Yeah.
Ever since I started like studying mental health, I've seen people avoid me. They
Yeah.
don't want you. They don't want me to know, especially dudes. Guys, if
Wow.
you're listening to this, I know who you are. Like you're avoiding me because you think that because of my arsenal of tools that I'm still learning, not yet graduated, but still learning, that I'm gonna somehow use this. It's psych, not psychic.
Right.
For some reason,
Right.
Desi people think that like I know what they're gonna say next, and like that's not how. I'm not psychic. Like especially dudes, they walk around me like I'm a freaking like insect repellent.
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah, they'll walk around me like, oh, I'm not gonna touch that subject because I'm afraid that you're gonna figure something out about me. Like they don't say that, but I could see them saying that. Now I'm suddenly psychic, but and they don't take you seriously. Like if I talk about mental health, they try to avoid me, right?
Right.
But then when I talk about fashion, oh, you're a guy talking about fashion.
Yes,
I'm
yeah.
not gonna take you
Yikes.
seriously
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
It's like wait. So
What just happened?
What just happened? Like, who am I supposed to be for you
Yeah.
to not only like notice me, but like talk to me?
Yeah.
Like I talk about fashion, I'm not manly enough. I talk about mental health, then it's like, okay, you're being too serious, and you're a know-it-all.
You're
I'm the one who
yeah.
asked,
You're
and I'm not a know-it-all.
And
I'm
you're
just
not trying to
confident.
be.
I'm just confident in what I say.
Which is good.
Unlike other dudes.
That's right.
Sorry,
But then
little bit of
dudes
self-esteem. It
also
wasn't
like they
Yeah.
try to act like they're know-it-alls too. Like
Yes.
men themselves. Like okay, yeah, I know this. I don't need you telling me this because
especially when it comes to politics.
it,
Yikes.
exactly.
And by the way, guys, that is so unattractive.
Politics, yes.
No, I mean, well,
just
that,
being a
that
know-it-all.
yeah.
I'm just
Hang
going
on.
to say that. I mean,
You can edit that out.
No, keep it.
I will keep that because
Because politics is boring to me, so I'm just gonna say it's unattractive.
That's fine. We all have our own biases,
We
but
do.
I'm on the same boat as her.
And to me, politics, it means my dad and I have hour-long discussions on end every day about what happened in American or Pakistani politics.
Yes.
Like, what I'm trying to say is you have to start treating people like they're the experts on what they're spending their lives doing.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
listen.
Exactly.
You don't know everything. Just because you're 45, 35,
Yeah.
doesn't mean that because you had so many years of experience in life about what it means to be a man, doesn't mean that you need to belittle the other person who's learning.
Right.
And by the way, those students that are coming out nowadays in this 20th century
Mm-hmm.
are far more open-minded than you would have ever imagined.
That's right.
Like when I want to sit with the uncles, if I'm not picking a side when it comes to politics, or I'm not talking about math, I'm not seen as someone who's being serious. And I'm like,
Right.
oh, so Uncle Falana, whatever his name is,
Yeah.
Falana means whatever, whatever his name is. How is your week going? Good. Okay. Okay, cool. What do you want to talk about? I got this new kurta that I'm wearing today. Okay. Like they don't care.
Yeah, they
Okay.
don't.
So I'm doing really well in school. Don't show off. And I'm like, okay,
What am I supposed to
what
do
am I
here?
supposed to say? If I say this, I'll be considered this. If I say that, I'll be considered that. And then you get the consulting from your own parents. I'll translate in a second, but beta ye nahi kehna. Wo nahi kehna. Don't
Yeah.
say this. Don't say that. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
clue.
Like, why can't I just be myself? Why are we so worried about log kya kahenge that it affects our womanhood, our manhood, our well-being, everything?
Because then you'll be considered like Batamiz.
Batamiz,
If you
yeah.
like talk back, you're like, you don't have no manners.
Especially as a man. Because
Right.
if you have these manners, how are you supposed to raise a family? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't plan on being a single dad.
Yeah.
I was going to have my significant other. Why the hell are you saying that me raising a family as if it's my responsibility only? And what does this scenario of me talking about fashion or mental health or anything have to do with the seriousness that comes with raising a family?
No clue.
No clue. It's like,
No clue.
what is... I'm sorry. I don't...
No, family gatherings is a great example of, picking out examples of toxic masculinity in like everything, like just from the way they talk. Well, to begin with, uncles don't really speak to you. They don't really come first to you and be like, how are you?
And they look angry? Like,
And they look angry.
why are you mad?
I know, and then they'll eat, and then they'll just walk around
yeah.
and not pick up their plates. Like, what is
Oh,
that?
Can we please? Okay, thank you to the person whoever wrote that comment on our community board about chores, because let me tell you, like at family gatherings, exactly what Minahil was saying. There's this expectation that even if they're like last time we talked about like washing dishes, like how remember
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
that story I shared with me washing dishes. These are plastic. These are disposable.
Yeah.
But they don't want to go to the garbage can because they
No.
know that some auntie shawarma, whatever her name is,
Shawarma.
she comes in, she's gonna clean everything, so we don't have to do it.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
that's so dumb.
It's so stupid.
Auntie
And
shawarma has feelings too.
that's a great line.
Thank you.
Like they'll be getting up and they'll be going to the kitchen anyway. Like it is, they'll be done eating and then they'll
You're
get up.
going that
As
way.
you're going to the kitchen, just might as well take your plates. Nope, I'm done eating. I'm gonna get up.
Because the man doesn't pick
Yeah,
up the dishes.
no.
Pick
What
up the
is that?
garbage.
It's so
It's
weird.
so stupid, and it's like, what if the woman wants to take out trash? What's wrong with that? Yo, she's recycling. That's Gucci. Like, why does that have to be considered something like, oh no, the guy
Yeah.
has to take out the trash?
Yeah. No, that reminds me of my actually Spanish teacher in high
Yeah.
school, and how she was telling us a story because she had just recently got married. And then she was taking out the trash one day because her husband had left for work, and it's like normal for a girl to take out trash.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
her elderly neighbor was like, "Why are you taking out the trash? Where's Miss blah blah blah, whatever her husband's name was?" And she's like, "What?" And he literally had told her, "You're a woman, you shouldn't have to take out the
Yeah,
trash."
see that? Oh my god.
She literally told us that story, and that has stuck with
Oh.
me to this day because every time I take out the trash, I like laugh to myself. I'm like, wow. I really shouldn't be taking out the trash right now.
I mean, do whatever you want to do in terms of like responsibilities. Why is there a division between which gender takes it? It's
Yeah.
so ridiculous. And also the same thing. I just wanted to say one other thing about the family dawa thing,
Oh,
the
God.
family gathering thing, and that's that there'll be like the uncle will literally have his plastic plate in his hand, and he's just going to the bathroom. He puts it on the ledge instead, and the bathroom and the bathroom is right next to the kitchen. Like right next to the
Oh
garbage,
my
but he doesn't want to
God.
put it there because they know that Auntie Shawarma is gonna pick it up.
That's so true.
It's annoying because
That
you're
is so
already
true.
going that way. That's
Yeah.
how the reason why I'm sharing this joke with you guys is because it's entrained, like it's in our blood. It's so
Yeah.
weird. Like it's like this expectation. And you know what? To be very transparent, I've seen those things in myself, bits and pieces of them, where I didn't notice. And I tell my girl cousins all the time, like, listen, tell me if I'm being this way,
Right.
because I don't want to
That's
be
so
like
nice.
that ever.
That's so nice. And honestly, that is how you make that change. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, because I grew. I mean, I didn't like not in my immediate family, but like thank God for my immediate family not being that way. But in my extended family, oh my God,
Yeah.
it's so bad. It's actually like really bad. Like when a guy cooks his dish, like a male figure cooks a dish for
Yeah.
the table, it's considered like so cool.
Yeah.
Almost
Wow.
as if it wasn't cool the thousands of times that
Yeah.
Auntie Shawarma cooked you a dish.
Yeah,
Right.
it's like put on a pedestal. You're right.
Yeah, and
You're
they're like,
right.
oh, the man cooked it. Yo, uncle,
Blah blah
blah blah blah, picked up, made this dish.
Yeah.
Yo, that's so
That's
lit.
sick.
Yo,
That's
put him on a
sick.
pedestal, and then as soon as the auntie does it, it's like, oh, this is normal.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
no.
a- that's a
Actually,
great
I'm
point.
sorry. This is a little low on salt.
Yes.
Oh my God, this. Oh my God.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
they start comparing,
Yeah.
and I'll translate in a second, but it's like, मैं से अच्छी बनाती हूँ.
Yeah.
Like I make it better than her.
Yeah. Yeah.
As if it's like your entire bloodline relies on this reputation of how much salt is in your dish.
Yeah.
The only salt here is the one that you're causing me to have.
It's true.
So
True.
annoying. God. I'm
So
sorry.
much.
Like this podcast is gonna get a lot of complaining, but hopefully we get some lessons.
It's
from
not
it, honestly.
complaining. It's more like observation.
It's like
It's-
venting.
yeah.
Yeah.
And exposing.
And exposing.
Nobody's talking about
Yeah.
this. And
Right.
honestly, this is like internal effects that we're talking about. Do you know the amount of potential lost when we start belittling or like not taking into consideration that your female counterparts to like whatever you are experts in can have an equal say, maybe give you bits of pieces of advice that make your life better?
Yeah.
Do you know how much potential is actually lost in our society and our culture because we decide that somehow you're more of a man, you're a woman, so you don't know. What do you know? You are younger,
Mm-hmm.
etc. I'm not going to lie to you. Like I am extremely blessed that I am a professional that is doing very good in my career, and I am happy to say, thank God, that I have a certain developed network.
Yeah.
I have a certain developed professional reputation.
Nice.
I have what you would call networks in the industry or contacts in the industry, etc. And recently one of our relatives went through a bout of like unemployment, and there were about, I don't know, 3 or 4 places where I could have just approached him and say, do you need any help? I'm happy to find a referral. I'm happy to find a reference or a contact that I happen to know exactly. I know a recruiter that can help you like tomorrow. And you know what kept me from like even, and I actually, in all transparency, I approached him and I started to talk about it. But I was met with such like belittling attitudes where it's like, I start to talk about, so how are you doing? What's happening in, how's work going, etc. That everybody knows that you're not in a job right now, but you are, because I am female and because I'm 25 years old, you're just gonna lie to me and say, everything is fine.
Yeah.
I am good. Oh, work is going great. No, uncle, we all know that you're out of a job right now. What I'm trying to tell you is I can help you, but it's all about, so what's up, what's happening. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
you are losing out on so much
Potential.
help.
Yeah, there's a potential
Potential.
there. If he trusted you, I mean, there's a lot going on there, right? There is I don't want to talk about my unemployment because izzat, respect,
Right.
or reputation.
Right.
Actually, it's more reputation, right?
It is.
And the other side of it is, you're younger than him.
How can I
Yeah.
and
possibly
you're a
help him?
female. So how
Can I
how on
possibly help
earth
him?
can you help him? Even though you have all the tools and experience more than other people I know. So nice on that. Good job on that.
Well,
Yeah,
thank
good
you.
job.
Yeah, good job on that.
I'm just saying, like, we it's unfortunate that like we know these people for over like years and years of our lives, yet they have no idea what we do for a living.
Absolutely.
They have no idea, and because it's not just a lack of, I don't know, it's not just a lack of interest, because it can't be just that. I mean, after years of knowing somebody, you have to develop some sort of interest, right? I think it's more about because you don't fit the demographic of like who I like to associate with, which is male, 45 plus years of age, yada yada. I'm just not gonna like even talk to you. And
Yeah.
I think that that's exactly why our society and culture is so left behind in things.
Yeah.
We are not investing enough interest, quote unquote, time, energy, resources into, actually listening to women, actually listening to girls, or actually even listening to younger, people in the audience of whatever,
Younger
males,
friends.
yeah.
Younger
Younger friends.
family members.
Are there men who have just different opinions than another?
Yes,
Yeah.
that are demonized.
Yeah, because you bring up a great point about the association. Men like to associate with other certain types of men, who are equally as manly. So that is a great point, because if you associate with not that, then you automatically become less manly.
them. Yeah.
You become them.
Yeah.
So that was a great point.
Like if you're
too.
not a business owner and you choose some unconventional, this is not me saying this. This
Right.
is like this is the norm.
Right.
Unconventional careers that are not engineering and medicine, you become like this other person. Like if you're a journalist or an artist, you're
Yeah.
considered like an other type of
Yeah,
uncle
right.
or other type of boy, man, whatever.
Yeah.
And the thing that's lost in all these expectations in terms of toxic masculinity is not only time but also potential.
Right.
So for example, if you look at the way that we preach different careers to our young ones, it's
Yeah.
always like women can become nurses and secretaries while the men are going to become the doctors and the surgeons.
Yeah.
And it's like really sad to see that even nowadays, where I thought this thing was finished,
Right.
Yeah.
it's the
You
thing
would
because
think, right? Yeah.
they're like, oh, if you become a nurse, you'll have more time to become a housewife
Exactly. Or a school teacher.
or a school teacher.
or
Like,
something.
follow the expectations. Don't break. What are you doing? Breaking expectations?
Yeah.
Yeah, mom. That's what I'm doing.
Right. And this is more part of the next episode, honestly, that we're gonna have.
Yes.
But the truth is that translates well to males as well. Like for example, if I if I become a professional woman, and I am, and I plan to be for a long time, that means you're making your family a second priority.
Yes.
You are.
The assumptions. Yeah.
Yep, you are. You are actually, and this is a major part of what I have observed in toxic masculinity as well, where husbands who do not support their wives or their partner's career,
Yeah.
it is a huge issue, guys. Like, you're basically saying that because she didn't cook you a meal tonight, because she was late at work for a meeting or whatever, that somehow, she's disrespected your manhood. No, those are not the definitions that we follow as girls who work and
Nice.
trying to,
Yeah.
make our own money. I'm sorry, but it's just that you are more than capable of fixing yourself a meal if I'm not present, because you have the right. I mean, if you're late from work one day, I'm not going to ask you, why didn't you make me a meal?
Yeah.
Nice.
Exactly.
It's
Good
just not.
point.
And just going off of that, stay-at-home dads are seen as
Right.
such a problem
Yeah,
in
it's
society, and not just our country. I'm talking here too, like in the U.S. Stay-at-home dads, like, oh, you stay at home, you take care of the kids. Like, why?
That's so
not-
weird.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
That's your wife's job or whatever. I've seen that a lot. I don't know if it goes a lot on back in Pakistan. I'm not too sure.
I've seen
about
it
that.
here a lot, which I'm
Yeah.
very happy. I love that.
Yeah.
I think this will contribute to child rearing a lot.
Yeah.
Like raising children in the house. How
Yeah.
is that gonna work now that there's like either a single dad or a stay-at-home dad? How
Yeah.
does that affect the kids? Like, I would really like want to know more about that.
Yeah.
But I think that it'd be positive. You know what I mean?
Of course.
It'd be a really positive impact, because the thing is, like, when a child grows up, they're spending a lot of their times with the mother figure,
Yeah.
and it's like, it kind of lets the father not be present if it's a classical family structure where it's like the
Right.
man's only working.
Yeah.
But and if both parties are working, both significant others are working, it creates an environment where then the kid has to become independent very quickly.
Yes.
So there's many ways to look at this.
Yeah.
However, I wanted to discuss how we can sort of change this, right?
Yes.
And one of the ways is spreading awareness by talking about it, right? But the other way is also, if you're a guy and you're listening to us talk about this, take things step at a time. Be more expressive. Don't care about the judgments you get, especially from like elder men who are telling you this is not what you're supposed to be doing. Ignore them. Be true to yourself, whatever that means in your scope.
Right.
And also empower the women around you, because
Right.
nothing is more toxic as a man than belittling the other gender.
Right.
And I think a true man can erase toxic masculinity within themselves by being honest
Yes.
Yeah.
and by regulating their emotions,
Yeah.
by expressing their emotions, and also by being comfortable in their own skin.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much for this episode. Again, like, we really appreciate everything that you do for us, and please continue to be a successful professional as you are, because you're doing wonders by just being yourself.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, and thanks for being the person who, on your side of things,
Yeah.
brings these things up. People like you, guys like you, are going to be the reason why, like, future generations of us are going to say, okay, this used to be bad, but now it's very good. It's because of you guys that we're going to actually have an equal say in things, and it's not just because we. People like Minahil and I are constantly fighting for, like, womanhood, but it's also because you guys are the other 50%, right?
Yeah.
Like, you guys are gonna be, constant in this world, in our lives. So thanks for being the voice of change.
Thank you.
Yes.
Really appreciate that. All right, well, guys, that's a wrap for us on this week's episode. Please stay tuned for next episode. I'm a she, so what? And that will be one of my favorite episodes, because we get to talk about you guys
Yay.
and how successful you guys are in your field, and the crap that you face for judgments, anything you want to talk about. Yes, so wait for next episode. See you then, but for now, don't worry about
No
lo
kya
kya kahenge.
kahenge.
Thank you.